Well, let's start on politics. And the opposition National Democratic Congress is demanding the immediate release of pastors and church members who were prosecuted for breaching COVID-19 safety protocols. Now, the party also argues delegates of the governing New Patriotic Party violated protocols in the full glare of the police during the party's last Saturday's primaries, yet no arrests were made. Communications officer of the NDC, Sami Jemfi, accused the president and the police service of selective application of the law. He spoke at the party's weekly briefing right here in the capital, Accra.
Pause by you in the media of how social distancing, wearing of face masks, and other critical COVID-19 preventive protocols were defied and thrown to the dogs as delegates congregated in their hundreds, mingled and interacted, including wild jubilations in the full glare of the police who are supposed to enforce the law. It is sad, cruel, and reprehensible for President Akufo-Addo, who promulgated the law, that is EI 64, which has led to the arrest, prosecution and imprisonment of pastors and other Ghanaians, to turn around and supervise the flagrant violation of the same law by his party officials and members with the impunity we saw during their Saturday parliamentary primaries. This, ladies and gentlemen, is unacceptable. This is abominable, particularly at a time church and mosque gatherings have been restricted to a maximum of 100 attendees and a duration of 1 hour. And at a time, Ghanaians who are found not to be wearing face masks are being subjected to all manner of degrading and inhumane treatments. The recklessness and lawlessness displayed by the NPP during their just ended parliamentary primaries, coupled with the selective application of the law on COVID-19 preventive protocols by our law enforcement agencies, make the imprisonment of pastors and Ghanaians who were convicted for breaching public gathering restrictions under EI 64 totally unjustifiable and unfair.
Mr. Sami Jemfi also alleged the NPP primaries were characterized by vote buying.
As you may be aware, the entire primaries was conducted in an environment where those who could afford the biggest pecuniary or monetary inducements carried the day. Huge amounts of money, I repeat, huge amounts of money. In some cases, 6,000 Ghana cedis per delegate, 5,000 Ghana cedis per delegate, 4,000 Ghana cedis per delegate, and so on, exchange hands in the full glare of the media. While material gifts such as refrigerators, flat screen televisions, motorbikes, tricycles, and other valuables were distributed to bribe and induce party delegates. Ladies and gentlemen, how a party which few years ago was begging for money from kayais and street hawkers, how a party which few years ago toured the world with a cup in hand begging for money, can afford this level of opulence and ostentation 3.5 years into coming into office, after coming into office, speaks volumes of the endemic corruption and thievery that has engulfed the Akufo-Addo government. Because certainly, the money we saw them distributing, the flat screens, the motorcycles, the cars, and other valuables we saw them distributing, is not money, they had before they came into office. Clearly, this is money they have made in the last 3.5 years. And that should give every well-meaning Ghanaian legitimate cause for concern, because they are the very people who few years ago, when they were in opposition, were struggling to pay their utility bills at their party headquarters. They were soliciting for funds from kayais. They went to China and other parts of the country with a bowl in their hand, led by Dr. Bawumia, begging for money. And so if today they can be distributing as much as 5,000 Ghana cedis per delegate and all these valuables, then we must ask them how they came by this wealth.
Now let's turn our attention to some education stories. And the headmaster of the Northern School of Business, Al-Hassan Isa Dokorogo, says the school has put in the necessary measures to protect students as they arrive to prepare for their final examinations. He said the school has made its own arrangements, like the provision of Veronica buckets for hand washing, among others. Mr. Dokorogo said they have so far dispatched a team to the Sandrogo Municipal Education Office just to receive the school's PPE's allocation.
The students have started arriving. As early as 7, we had a few already by the main entrance. And we have done a lot in terms of preparation to receive them. And the preparation largely covers what has been prescribed nationally. Academically, we have reduced our class sizes to a maximum of 30. The range is 25 to 30. We have also given out information that all students reporting should appear in face masks. Even if they are accompanied by parents, the parents should equally come in the face mask. And so far, I think the order is obeyed. The staff equally are encouraged to be in the face mask. So beyond these simple things, when students arrive, before they check into the various dormitories, we do a registration of those who have reported. And that has to do with
In the Upper West region, the headmaster of the One Senior High School, Simon Yang, has disclosed the school has also made advanced preparations for final year students. He said in addition to personal protective equipment that the government has so far provided, they have also on their own provided some of the things that government failed to provide just to ensure the successful reopening of the school for students. Rafiq Salam brings us more.
You know, we're depending so much on the arrival of the PPEs. Thank God, on Saturday, we took delivery of some of the PPEs. They have given us Veronica buckets, they have given us hand sanitizers, and some thermometer guns. In fact, what we haven't received is a liquid soap and then tissues. But on our own, at the school level, we are trying to see, we have provided not enough anyway, but the rest of the things that are left, so that we will start with, and all is set for us to receive the students.
So looking around, are the students, have they started coming?
Well, just about 1 or 2 came in. Even on Saturday, I saw 2 students who came in. We are just, for now, the rest have not come. But we're expecting that any moment from 12 or 11 onwards, they'll start arriving as they normally do.
What about the teachers, the staff? Are they in position to teach them?
Yes, the staff, we are ready because we had a staff meeting and we discussed all that. Our timetable is ready. House masters are set to receive the students into the various houses.
How many students do you expect to be in school?
Yeah, we're expecting in all the candidates we have, there are 446. We are a single track, so we are not expecting Form 2 gold students. So we are just dealing with the 446 candidates.
In terms of social distancing, classroom division, how are you going to go about it?
We don't have a problem. Our classrooms, we have too many classrooms.
Here in Accra, a head teacher has expressed satisfaction at ongoing disinfection exercises at various basic schools in parts of the capital just to control the spread of COVID-19. The disinfection exercises being undertaken by Zoom Lion Ghana comes as final year JHS pupils prepare to resume school in their readiness for the sitting of basic education certificate examinations. PSA Nanaya Osafo visited one of such schools in the Ablekuma North area and also spoke with school authorities who were supervising the exercise.
Yeah, before this week, we met last week with the school board, the PTA, and selected students, and we informed them about all the safety protocols the government has put in place. So the school has procured personal protection equipment like biometric buckets, sanitizers, face masks, and other things that will help to protect the workers and the students as well. So we have prepared ourselves for next week reopening. Oh, fortunately for us, we are not many. We are not even up to 20, and our classrooms are very spacious. So we have done a parrot. So they came and we did it, and we are okay. We are okay with the seating arrangements.
Officials from Zoom Lion Ghana also said they will disinfect all the schools in Accra before they reopen next week, urging all, including pupils, to adhere to preventive protocols.
The president directive that he gave, schools are reopening by Monday, and we cannot separate the private schools from the public schools. So we are doing all private and public schools because they are all reopening on Monday. And the pandemic that we are having doesn't know the private school and the public school. So we have to do everything together so that we safeguard public health.
And so far, how has the process been?
It has been cool. It has been, the teachers are very cooperative, the head teachers are very cooperative, and it is moving on well. The only thing is that we have a limited time to ensure that all schools are disinfected.
How many schools are in your roster that you're working on?
In Greater Accra, we have over 4,500 schools in Greater Accra alone. And we are making sure that we finish all the 4,500 schools before Monday. Today, we anticipated of starting work around 6 a.m. And because of the rains, it delayed the whole thing. So these are normal challenges that come in the course of duty. So we are also working. We are looking at from tomorrow having a team that is doing the morning and the evening shift, so that at least by the end of the day we cover all the places that we have not covered. Because the places that we have not covered, if we don't cover the school cannot be opened for school, for lessons by Monday. Yeah. We are entreating the teachers that as they come and go through their normal syllabus, they should let them have some lessons on this COVID thing that has met all of us. Because when we go around, the schools that we go, you can see some kids around, and if you see the way they are carrying themselves, there's a little bit of fear in that. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
And before we go, let's end the bulletin this way. For 64 years, he has devoted his life to farming. Now, at age 92, he still has enough energy in him just to get going. The tenacity and perseverance of cocoa farmer Opinin Yaweje in the Sunafo North municipality of the Ahafo region, despite his age, is an inspiration to many. As a former best cocoa farmer for the Den Bono Ahafo region, he provides guidance for both practicing and potential young farmers. Ohimin Tewia visited him in his farm and has more in the special.
For many people, especially the youth, farming is undignified and exhausting enterprise with little returns. The youth prefer to drift from rural areas to cities for economic opportunities at the expense of agriculture. For Penyeji, the narrative is different. From funding education of his children both at home and abroad, to owning landed residential and business property, age is no barrier to him.
I've got to work hard. Old age is no excuse for laziness.
The non-Nigerian conceived the idea of farming just a few years into his employment at the then Mass Education Office in 1946. The thought of meager pension benefit, which could hardly sustain him after retirement, was enough motivation to pursue his dreams.
In school, no. Be mass education. Na be come say crash adwuma de enim fofo de baby baba na onyini na okọ pension na mbere nyina na pension ska no ebeso e go say yiri me ho be ye koko ni kese e de mu ho o mafu mu wo fu kese pa.
Openyeje owns 140 acres of cocoa farms at Asumura, Ponkrum, near Sankore in the Ahafo region. In 2005, his efforts earned him the best cocoa farmer, an honor he cherishes so much.
The best cocoa award for the whole Ahafo region. I took that award. So me can say, we can say, if Brosan Kura at also a 9. The man also, it me, my member education. The money education, and I'm also a salon, most of them are graduates.
Many people believe farming is not lucrative and sustainable, but certainly not Openyeje, and he has no regrets for choosing such path.
Oh, ye cocoa, and no idea. Now, who say, oh, ye business? The business, dear. Now, quite capital intensive. It can be about Passoa, say, cocoa maintenance. Catechists, even a teacher. Any year, crown, a dog, cocoa and pivira. And no matter how say, a catinum, ni cocoa on a bed proper, ni adimsa. The government, a boy, dear. And so, wow, where you with money there? Well, yes, was a way you business in there. And so, you want a bank to say, you be here, be a binary by money. Wow, you want to talk, we say, have confidence in them,
Farming in recent times has become knowledge-driven, especially in an era of climate change extremes. It means new techniques, seeds, and strategies are needed for sustainable food and cash crop production. Openyeje has experienced negative climate change effects on his annual yields. From up to 750 bags a year, he now does averagely 600 bags, and the reality dawns on him so much. Consequently, he has invested heavily in this area by mechanizing a borehole to supply water to his farm at all times.
This climatic change is all about water. Then you have the borehole, you lay pipes, you have got to erect tank. Then I have got to get a generator that can do the work.
I sought to find out if he retired from active farming anytime soon, considering the number of farm hands he employs.
Retiring from cocoa farming, I don't know when I will retire, because it will make me lazy. From hard work, you are mobile.
From Goso, Ohiminteria reporting.
What a way. 92 years and still going strong. Great inspiration for all of us. We just have to make sure we keep our lifestyles and our wellness level up to the optimum. And we all would achieve that feat. That's it. But all these stories have been uploaded on all our relevant social media platforms. And we're talking Joy News on TV, where we're streaming live on Facebook. And also same for Twitter, Joy News on TV. Joy News TV being our official YouTube channel, and myjoyonline.com, the best news portal right now in Ghana. We're taking a break. When we come back, we're doing news review. Next, myself and Mavio Swabwaje. Well, we have to look at the newspapers. I have Mamavi here. Mamavi, looks like today you and I were dressed pepe. Blue, navy blue.
Are you okay? I'm not going to go there. Yeah. But good morning to you. Well, thank you for joining us.
Have you also been taking Herbalife like 50? Very trim.
Which one is that?
Okay, so what do you have?
Are you revealing Gifty's secrets on the show? Or she shared it?
I think so.
I don't want to be a contributor to that.
I should remember that.
Gifty is one of my best friends, so
Gifty,
I want to keep it that way.
Gifty and Rapia, good morning to you.
Okay, so we're just going to jump into the newspapers, but we'll start this way. Management of Ghana Water has scheduled a shutdown of the Wager Headworks for repairs on a raw water pipeline starting today, Tuesday. How is this going to affect you, who relies on Wager to supply you with water? We've got the head of communications for the company joining us, Mr. Stanley Mate. Good morning to you. Thank you for your time.
Morning, Mama. How are you doing?
I'm very well, thank you. Thanks for asking. So we just wanted to briefly understand how this is going to affect water supply and to which areas.
Oh, okay. Thank you for the opportunity. Yes, it's going to affect the western part of Accra, areas that are being served by the Wager plant. So, for instance, Malam, Bawe, McCarthy Hill areas, Dansoman, Mampobi, Agege, Kolebu, Kolegono, Mataheko, North Kanishin, Tesano, La Paz, Achimota, and all those areas will be affected. Soweto and all those areas will be affected. Now, the raw water line is a huge pipeline that abstracts water from the river, the Denso River, into the treatment plant for treatment. Now, because of the leakage on that pipeline, we are losing a substantial volume of water that we abstract for treatment. So we are not getting the full capacity of the treatment plant. So we need to have repaired so that at least we can abstract more water for treatment for the people of the western part of Accra. So it's essential that we repair that line.
Okay, but so how long would it take?
24 hours. We are hopeful that by acquiring any technical hitch, we should be able to complete this job before 6 a.m. tomorrow morning.
Okay, all right. Mr. Mate, thank you very much for your time. That's Stanley Mate. He speaks for the Ghana Water Company. If you live in the areas that he mentioned, it means that you will not have water supply, but he says it's just for 24 hours. That's for them to repair and maintain some works, defective valves on the main transmission line. So that's the information we thought is really important. We wanted a bit of understanding. All right, let's jump into the newspapers. Roland, I'll do the Daily Graphic and the Times. You've added the Finder. What are you doing?
I'm doing the Enquirer, the Statesman, the Daily Dispatch, and I'll start with the Daily Guide.
You will start with the Daily Guide?
That is after you.
Okay, all right. So let's begin with the Finder. I'll go the Finder way this morning.
I didn't tell you. You know Sally for Combat? It's been a while I mentioned his name. He's one of the frontline workers. He's head of primary healthcare pharmacy.
We know that.
Okay. I don't think the audience know that. At the Boku Presbyterian Hospital, good morning to you for doing good work during this time of COVID.
You didn't talk about his wife?
The wife has been supporting him at home, but also works with the Ghana Immigration Service station at the Mesiga border. Thank you for encouraging me to give shout out to frontline health workers.
Let's do the Finder newspaper front page. Here we go. 75% completes $1.1 million net funding gap, requires urgent donation. And we're talking about the 100-bed infectious diseases isolation facility. There's a challenge that Senor Hossi has thrown out there, and I thought, I'll pick up the challenge. So let's see what we do with it this morning. It's just a 10 Ghana cedis challenge, so you can contribute to the completion of this very important facility, the 100-bed infectious diseases isolation facility, 75% complete. That's
so they have a short code?
Yeah, they've got that. So we will share all the details later this morning. Check how much you have, because you are not doing 10 Ghana cedis.
No, I'm not doing 10.
Okay.
I intend doing above. More than 100. Yeah.
All right, back on the front page. Let us see what.
But it's private sector. Private sector.
This is
Okay,
Abayanka what?
Oh, I mean, you say,
but the state is part of it.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, it's not going to be.
I thought it was private.
Let us unite for victory in upcoming elections. That's a call from President Akufo-Addo Roland. SHS in Accra welcomes students with COVID-19 orientation. Also, ADB partners GERSAL to reduce risk in agric. Front page of the Daily Graphic newspaper, COVID-19 safety measures, free SHS enforce protocols. Also, restructure public basic school system. A call from Professor Adai, Stephen Adai, chairman of the NDPC, explaining the point to editor of the Daily Graphic, Kobe Asma, during a meeting. Also, government has no hand in demolition property, according to Foreign Minister, and this has to do with the property belonging to the Nigerian High Commission, we're told, until investigations reveal all the details in that. So we wait to see. There's an angle from the Nigerian High Commission. There's also the Osu Traditional Council on the other side. It is only thorough investigation that can open up the issue. So we'll leave it here until we get what the investigations reveal. In the center spread, high attrition rate of MPs needs interrogation. CDD Ghana making the point. Dr. Kojo Asante speaking to the Daily Graphic on this.
Dr. Kojo Asante, we have to put Shraj on this one.
Oh, Charlie, but disaster.
Yeah, it's a total disaster.
When you sit and reflect a bit, especially when you look at all the names together. Community mining
it's like you having a human being and you taking the soul or the hearts out of the body, you know.
But listen, it won't be such a big blow to Parliament this year, okay? Because after the primaries, we've got election coming up in December. A lot of people will be concentrating on.
Yeah, we do know that. But what happens is that many of these people tend to relax. They don't, you know, the enthusiasm and.
But that's the feeling. That's the feeling. I don't see, for instance, Mr. Ben Abdallah relaxing and not committed to doing his work and finishing. I mean, there are some. There are some.
Because his party could win or may not win the next election. So if his party wins and he's dedicated, the president thinks that he's still dedicated. He may give him a ministerial appointment.
I only mentioned Mr. Ben Abdallah.
No, I mentioned Makasibeya because you went to his enemy to go, and we have that interaction there.
Okay, listen, Roland, we're reviewing the newspaper, so let me go back to the center spread, okay, of the Daily Graphic. Stranded Ghanaian Germans evacuated to Germany. A total of 178 Ghanaian Germans who were stranded due to COVID-19 restrictions were yesterday airlifted to Germany through a joint effort by the Ghanaian community in Germany, the governments of Ghana and the German government. Community mining scheme launched at Tinga is also another story in the center spread of the paper. But this one about Parliament and the MPs going out. And Dr. Kojo Asante, who's the Director of Advocacy and Policy Engagement at the Center for Democratic Development, says he's called for a critical analysis of the high attrition rates of members of Parliament. He explained that such an analysis should be able to point to the main drivers of the rates and explain why other MPs stayed longer without the so-called protection by the political parties. So details of that in the center spread of the Daily Graphic newspaper. A very important work he's asking for us to do in terms of the analysis. Back page, as Sanko donates hygiene products to schools in Amansia West and South, reviewed COVID-19 discharge protocols in right direction. That's according to the director of the Noguchi Memorial Institute for Medical Research, Professor Abraham Kwabena Annan, who says that the reviewed discharge protocols on the coronavirus did not present any cause for alarm.
Oh, that's good. As you prepare to do the next newspaper, Salifu Combat says that you are very gender sensitive. But don't worry, he'll be in town on Thursday. We're going to the Marriott Hotel to have breakfast. Salifu Combat, you're too much. Please,
did he say that in that sentence?
Yeah,
until I read exactly what he sent to you. I am believing anything that you just said. The Ghanaian Times newspaper, even the message, you can plant it, Roland. The front page of the Ghanaian Times, former President Mahama to unveil policies ahead of manifesto launch. On GES, parents must assist children to observe COVID-19 safety protocols. Well, they're in school already, so hopefully that has thoroughly been done. I've had some parents who said they've armed their children, they've told them exactly what to do, and they trust that they will stay safe. 4,500 Accra basic schools undergo disinfection by Zoom Lion. Here's one on the demolition of buildings situated at the Nigerian High Commission. Osu claims land, but foreign minister apologizes to Nigerian High Commission. On the back page, AMA laid to rest COVID-19 dead bodies at Awudome Cemetery. Work begins on newborn units for Tamale West Hospital. That's how it looks like by way of what's on the front back page of the Ghanaian Times newspaper. Roland will start or continue with the Daily Guide newspaper.
The Daily Guide has on the front page, Mahama responds to government official one tag, has on a third picture of former President John Dramani Mahama, flag bearer of the opposition NDC CEO, 50 million Ghana cedi deal rejected, has an attached picture of Daniel Duku, formerly CEO of the venture capital, currently before the law courts. 4,500 Greater Accra schools disinfected. And Yariga trial witness missing. Yesterday, the story was making the rounds that apparently a special prosecutor can't find a witness in this Yariga case. We just have Kable was on the show today, but how you give us further and better particulars on the subject. You know, we don't.
Why is he the special prosecutor?
No, he's our lead court correspondent. On the back page, we have a picture of Jordan Ayew. He scored a goal when the EPL resume was played over the weekend. Jordan delighted over EPL record, and it's because he's been doing so well. The Ghana International was on target as Crystal Palace defeated Bournemouth 2-0 at the Vitality Park in their first game since the resumption of the English Top Flight League, the EPL. We also do have Bedu gets coach salutes the one against Cagliari in Italy. And down there we have Zidane mad at referees discussion. And Ronaldo not as sharp as before. That's coach Maurizio Sarri, who also hasn't been as sharp as he was. So I'm wondering who is sharper. Allah. Yeah. Let's do the Daily Dispatch newspaper. Okay. We have on the front page of the Daily Dispatch the MPP primaries and 2020 election. I tell you, I've read the story. Please read it. It's just part one of Uncle Ben's feature. Story also focusing on the MPP primaries and what the implications could be. You know, before this election, he was warning that ultimately, he's not saying there'll be a loss or a win, but some of these considerations or under considerations of voting out MPs, etc., could lead to some loss of 400,000 votes. And this is, again, re-emphasized here in the speech. It's on page 2 of the Daily Dispatch newspaper. Please get a grip on this. ICAMS, that's Unipass, into bracket, generated 490 million Ghana cedis in 17 days. The GRA boss has been trumpeting this over the last 6 days. It's found its way into the front page of the Daily Dispatch newspaper. Down there, the 7th Parliament and the fall of 40 MP. Sounds like some Ghanaian movie title, but it's real. It happened this Saturday. That's when the filming took place. Was premiered live on Joy News. Live.
Really?
Yeah, on election headquarters.
Okay.
The theater. Live. Can I do one more? Before you...
I don't have any more papers.
Okay. No, you have...
Are you okay?
Okay. So we have the Enquirer. Mahama promises Don Kufuado. As NDC unveils Sam. Then we have battle over kickback. Dr. Archibald fires aid. No parliamentary candidate in your constituency. And it says, that's what the Daily, the National Enquirer has captioned on its front page. The Daily Statesman says, defeat of experienced MPs is a setback, says majority leader. Even he agrees. He could have been a casualty if somebody had contested him. But he's lucky he went unopposed. That's a good thing. I don't know why they didn't do it to some of the other MPs. Join hands for decisive victory. President Kufuor charges MPP faithful. There was a formal statement congratulating the winners, but also saying that the losers should come on board. That statement was issued before the close of the news day on Monday. Government also provides 1,190 vehicles for free SHS program. That's a good thing. And the Electoral Commission is asking you to know all the needed information before you go and queue for a new voters register. Compilation of the 2020 voters register. Mama, this is what you need to know. I see that you've not been knowledgeable in this, so I'll keep you. You need to be above 18. I see that you're already above. You haven't registered before, so I'm telling viewers so that they note. As you're a citizen of Ghana, Mama, as far as I know, you're of sound mind. I think oftentimes
who are you to determine that?
You're a resident or ordinarily resident in an electoral area. Yes, you live in Kutu, near Eastern Region. Not to be prohibited from registering by any law so far. Any of the following documents can be presented by applicants at the registration center to prove his or eligibility. Passport. You travel to South Africa, Singapore, so you have a passport.
Okay,
national ID, I'm not too sure, Mama, but we'll excuse you because you have a passport. In the event where an applicant does not have the required, so in the event where Mamavi does not have the required documents, she must be accompanied by 2 guarantors who must have registered a voter under the current. I don't have. So myself, I have a passport. My lead producer, Derek Sam, has a passport. We'll register first, and then we'll take Mamavi along to go and guarantee for her at Kuntunse. It's near the eastern region of Ghana.
No, stop misrepresenting that. I told you that I live in both regions.
I'm not surprised. You're even confused. You know, there's one of the criteria, be of sound mind. You are the only Ghanaian who lives in 2 regions. Do you know that there's a great contest between Ghanaians who are living in Togo and Ghana?
How is that?
So you living in Eastern region and you could be debarred from registering. Mamavi. I don't know what viewers think about it. Look, this is quite fascinating, but it's a serious program. And to ensure the safety and security of its stakeholders, the Electoral Commission is assuring Mamavi to observe the following safety protocols in line with government.
Let's do myjawline.com.
No, time is not up. No rush.
Let's do myjawline.
No rush. Mauli, our lead, he said we have 3 more minutes. What do you want to take a look at?
I don't know. You just confused me.
I didn't.
You just, you know.
Sure, okay. Eastern region residents, that's for, these are how they behave.
There are some stories on myjawline.com.
Oh, but personally, I would want to ask you, we had a great interaction you had with Michael Befi, that's his name?
Yes.
And
Kofi Befi, that's how they
I hadn't really heard him speak before, and look, he sounded like he's up for the job.
I think that the thing that I didn't know before the interview, he had actually done a lot of constituency work. So he used to be first vice chair at some point, even when Marcus Ibeyewa was still MP in Parliament.
In the party?
Yes.
In the constituency?
So he's done a lot of work in the constituency. He's known. He's known, you know, almost like everywhere. And then he also talks about, so for those of you who want to get into politics, because he was doing corporate work, he was an insurance person. So selling insurance, needed clients from across board because you didn't have to identify yourself as NDC or an MPP. And so he used Kofi Befi. So for a very long time, he was known as Kofi Befi in politics. And then in corporate, he was known as Michael Befi.
I need to do that.
And people didn't think the two, was the same person. Even the president, when he was appointing him, because Kofi Befi is what in politics.
How do you law students say coterminous? Or how do you?
Are you talking to me?
Yeah. Okay. So let's go on.
Co-host.
So we're having this interaction.
So yeah. So he talks a lot about his personal life as well. His parents passed, but I asked what he would have done for his mother because he talks fondly of her. And you will have to wait to listen to what he says on that.
I think you qualify under be of sound mind. Based on what you just said. You qualify.
So if you want to know, I mean, everybody that we talk to really say that the biggest shock was Dr. Sibeyabua. So I'm sure you want to learn the man who knocked him off. So this conversation is right here on the AM show.
Mama V, you're
morning.
wonderful.
Let's do my joy.
I saw him going through his house. It looks like he's a self-made man.
He is, absolutely.
So you should have allowed me to accompany you for this interaction.
To go with us. Yeah. What would you have done? Stayed in his house and eat.
You're very wicked.
Let's do myjoyonline.com. Now, this is also turning out to be a story, a very familiar story at Komfo Anoche. This one says, work on 44-bed capacity Kolebu COVID-19 treatment center stalls over lack of funds. According to Joy News sources, the contractors have run out of funds and have been waiting for funds in order to return to site. The situation has left the hospital with no option but to operate a makeshift facility located at its fever units. But that can only take 8 patients, with a seeming rise in asymptomatic cases and dwindling spaces in other facilities in the capital. That unit also come under pressure with all the units' available beds currently taking up. So that's the situation with the facility that Kolebu is putting up in the fight against COVID-19. Here's another story. Venture capital scandal. Court rejects Duku's repayment plan for the second time. So the push by former chief executive of the Venture Capital Trust Fund, Daniel Duku, to escape possible jail term by refunding 15 million Ghana cedis to the state has been rejected once again. Justice Antonio Pong said the court is not impressed with the plan to refund the money to the state by paying in bits. If you want to read more, just click on the story on myjoyonline.com. Here's another court story. This time, GN license case. Court of Appeal orders Bank of Ghana to justify revocation at High Court. And again, on this one, the Court of Appeal Monday threw out an application from the Bank of Ghana which challenged the jurisdiction of the High Court to hear the case. Bank of Ghana had argued that the High Court has no jurisdiction to hear the complaint, which is challenging the revocation of GN Savings license. It argued that the only lawful forum for resolving the GN Savings concerns is the Ghana Arbitration Center. The High Court dismissed its application in December 2019. I want to fast forward and talk about Justice Remsai, who's lawyer for GN Savings. He says legal, and this is to the Bank of Ghana, legal gymnastics all are aimed at stalling the case and thereby perverting the cause of justice. So Bank of Ghana, get back to the real issues and stop doing the wayside. It ain't working, so deal with the real matter. Basically that. COVID-19 patients afraid to have isolation, to leave isolation centers over possible stigma. Of course, our colleague, Gary Al Smith, has been telling us a lot of the inside stories. Yesterday, I bounced this off the Director General of the Ghana Health Service, who even says that, listen, to all of you who are stigmatizing, if a person recovers from COVID-19, they're even better off than you. You haven't had it at all. They are better than you, like in many ways. That if you have it, it means you are immune recovered. Yes. You're immune from getting reinfected. So your system, you haven't tested your system. Somebody has tested and recovered, and you're there stigmatizing the person. Go ahead. If it happens to you, we'll see if you will survive it. Well, we have to do... defeated MP denies, you have to do what? Sports. Oh, but read that one. It's very important. A bit of this story. So, this member of parliament for Echima Kwawoma in the just ended Anamamboniye. Okay. Dr. Kojo Apiakubi, he's denied reports that he's demanding from delegates some money and goodies shared. There were reports that the incumbent legislature and its supporters are chasing after delegates to collect some monies and items allegedly distributed to them for votes after they voted against him, but the MP denied. And he says, quote, "I haven't asked anybody to go after delegates to retrieve my money." So if somebody comes in the name and says, when the time is due for retrieval of such goodies, I will officially state my position on the matter through a statement.
But Charlie, but it's serious. So it means the delegates averaging 400 to 750 collected monies from the city and be 40 of them and still didn't vote for them.
I am still investigating what accounted for my defeat in the just ended primaries. That's Dr. Afia.
Fear delegate.
No, Roland would love to be a delegate. Oh my God.
No, I don't want to be a delegate.
And he would say, I am a neutral. So that he can get
the ordinary Ghanaian will say, it's a lie. It's a lie. But it's your birthday today. Dr. Francis Akum of the Boku Presbyterian Hospital. I'm told that you are worried that it's only Salif Kombat who is getting all the fans.
Over to you, Benedict, now with sports.
All right, thank you very much, Mama B. So you're welcome to the sports segment here on the AM show. And of course, a different feel of it, anchoring from home. That's what we've been doing for the past week now. And we have to start here on the local scene. And the Confederation of African Football, that's CAF, they released guidelines for the restart of competitions and respective, leagues across the continent. Well, this morning we are privileged to have on the line with us Dr. Prince Pambo, who is a member of the CAF Medical Committee. They were very, very, integral in the recommendations put out yesterday. There's a 27-page recommendations put out by the Confederation of African Football. Doc, thanks so much for your time this morning. First of all, we want to find out what triggered, the decision to put together these guidelines.
Thank you so much, and thank you for having me this morning, Benedict. So yes, we all know what COVID-19 has caused sports globally. So I must say this particular document, we started work on it months back. I mean, it's not something that just happened. But before we kind of put finality to it, along the line, you noticed or you're aware that CAF communicated to all member associations to indicate to CAF whether they want to continue their leagues, they want to cancel, or whatever plans they have. Of course, CAF also acknowledged the fact that it was going to be very difficult for member associations to really come out clear. People had governments who needed to give them the go-ahead. And you realize that in this particular document, CAF did emphasize that this document would only serve as guidelines and recommendations after your government and your health authorities have given you the go-ahead to state competitions or to play football in your country. I have said over and over again that CAF does not own any football pitch anywhere. CAF does not own any country. So whatever we do from the point of CAF can only be suggestions. And we thought that, yes. So it kind of went through a series of steps, and the document you see brought together fitness coaches, elite coaches, technical people. It's not only medical. I mean, it had so many other things, but the key point was that a document of such nature needed to come out, given to various member associations. You are not tied down to use this document if you want to resume. If your local federation has another guiding document which you feel is superior to this, all associations are happy, of course, at liberty to use it. But CAF just thought that we needed to do this. And of course, if you read this document, it's quite deep, and personally, I feel it covered most grounds that associations would need to be able to resume football in the midst of this pandemic.
Doc, I've gone through the recommendations, and of course, I've seen that many of the things in there are as a result of what's been happening elsewhere. I'm talking about Germany, England, and Spain.
Right. Yeah, so basically, when it comes to medicine, the language is pretty simple. For instance, if you ask me here to tell you the causes of hypertension, okay, and the prevention of hypertension, whatever I say here from Ghana, from my home right here this morning, if you called my colleague in Manchester and asked him the same question, he's going to tell you the same things. I mean, so when it comes to putting together protocols for fighting COVID-19, I mean, no country has different protocols. We have the same. The same when it comes to sports. Football is football. I mean, 11v11 with a coach, with technical bench and all that. So whatever recommendations any federation will be putting together is definitely going to look like what FIFA has done, what La Liga has done, what the EPL has done. So yes, that's how come you're seeing literally similar documents. It's the same language we are speaking.
Doc, finally, before I take leave of you, I know some time back you had the view that we shouldn't even start now. We should rather look at somewhere in the next season. But with what is happening elsewhere, and even on the continent, I know Tanzania have resumed their football. I mean, our football association will take a decision on June 30. At this point, would you advise that those calling for the restart of our league, we should go ahead and do that?
Benedict, so I made this comment way back in March. Okay. And it's probably 3 months down the line, and really we've not been able to start. I mean, the president of the land hasn't even given us the permission. I mean, with the advisors on health issues to the president. I mean, so it still comes to that point that the year 2020, and this was my exact comment, that the rest of the year 2020 does not look very good for football. And of course, whatever is happening in England, whatever is happening in Spain, obviously it's quite far from what we know as football. Just yesterday, I'm sure you probably have heard the news, a couple of players from the EPL have tested positive for COVID-19. Some tennis tournaments being organized somewhere, a few big boys have tested positive for COVID-19. So yes, every decision has its pros and cons. So, and I believe every association, before taking a decision to either resume or to cancel, will have to weigh the various options. But the point has been driven home that whatever kind of sports we will be doing in the year 2020 is just going to be a shadow of itself. And of course, I think society have come to accept it that way, say, biara sort of thing. So, yes, but at the end of the day, like I said, the year is not looking too good for football. And this is not the time for anybody to want to even be a leader in any setting, because some of these decisions are extremely difficult. And we know, I mean, Nigeria just canceled their league. I don't know if I'm right on that. They have to vote. It took a lot of time for them to come to that realization also. So I think whatever decision our leaders would take on the 30th of June would be respected and it will be supported. But of course, we still know our president hasn't even given us a go-ahead to play any football. So we only pray for the best.
Doc, thanks so much for your time this morning. Really appreciate it. So that was Dr. Istanbul, who is a member of the CAF medical committee. Of course, together with other units of the Confederation of African Football, they put together that 27-page document looking at the recommendations on how the continent should resume football.
Benedict also, and it's always fun having him, especially these times when we're in COVID and we have to do these interactions right from home. It's always fun. But wherever you're watching us from, we say get interactive, and some of the best platforms we have on social media when it comes to the media are always embedded on Joy News, Joy FM, etc. So get on to Joy News TV, Facebook, same goes for the handle on Twitter, Joy News TV, and then ultimately get to Joy News TV, which is our YouTube channel. But we need to have an interaction. We're talking the third years at senior high school, and then also the second years on the go track of free SHS going back to school. And we had a lot of reports aggregated right here the whole of yesterday from our correspondent about how the schools were prepared to arrive for the arrival of these students. But the main conversation is also about the reception and how teaching and learning would go for the teacher doing the instructions. Well, we want to have this conversation with that. So we're going to have the president of NAGRA, that's the National Graduate Teachers Association. And then also we have Peter Pate Anti, who is Executive Director for IFEST. And IFEST is the Institute for Education Studies. And he's already on stream. Good morning to you, Peter.
Good morning.
Yeah, great. And then we'll be joined by a lead management person with the Ghana Education Service, and ultimately we're going to have a great conversation. We'll also open the phone lines towards the tail end of this interaction so that you are all let in the discussion. But Peter, let me first ask you, we arrived here because a decision needed to be taken. We're talking the COVID, the lockdown, and students were asked to go home. Now we know that we have to take some bold decisions, and the decisions have been taken. What has been your observation over the last 24 hours following the return of students to the schools?
Thank you very much, and good morning once again to your viewers and listeners. Yes, that this has been a very difficult decision for all of us, parents, teachers, we who are studying the sector from afar, the ministry, Ghana Education Service, and even the students. There were mixed reactions when the idea was mooted that the schools need to be reopen for especially the graduating students, something that we at IFES have been advocating for over the months, that we need to make sure that these students exit from the system so that we have a clear pathway for how we go about our education after the coronavirus, or when the pandemic is brought under control. So there were back and forth here and there, but finally we are happy that schools reopened yesterday. I think it was Saturday, Sunday that the students were supposed to report on campus. And yesterday, most of them were allowed into the various campuses. And our small observation seems to suggest that the students are happy to be back on campus. The teachers have welcomed them. There seems to be a lot of energy from the part of the various school authorities, especially because most of the things that were supposed to be provided by the Ministry of Education and the Ghana Education Service seems to have been provided earlier before the reopening. And this is one of the things that we spoke strongly for, that to instill confidence and trust in the teaching and non-teaching staff, and especially on parents, because the parents would have to allow their kids to leave the house and come to school. The Ghana Education Service would have to provide the needed PPEs and all those things that the schools needed ahead of time to show as a sign, to show the parents, to show the teachers and everybody involved that, look, we are very serious about the health protocols. We would want to take very good care of the kids. And as soon as they get on campus, we are kickstarting the implementation of the protocols. And that is why when you look at your reporters reporting across the length and breadth of the country, and the little observations that we have also picked from the ground, it seems that the reopening have gone on smoothly, and we are all happy.
But look, at the end of the day, the parents also were in on this. Their students are now in school. What are you expecting of parents, on the other hand, who are observing from home?
Yes, the parents would know this pandemic. It's something that is very tricky. So you would not be certain what is really going to happen to your ward. I hope that there is a system of communication that have been put in place by the Ghana Education Service and the ministry, and probably the management of the various secondary schools, for parents to constantly get in touch with their wards. But one thing that the parents should be assured of, and I think that assurance should come from the ministry. This morning I was reading a message from the deputy minister assuring parents that they are going to make sure that every kid is protected from head to toe, so that none of them would encounter any kind of will put himself or herself in any situation that will make it difficult or for the parents. So the parents should be reassured of this. They should constantly be in touch with the kid and check up how they are doing. They should more probably be in touch with the teachers that they know they've been contacting over the years to check up on their kids for them. But they should not be so much eager to react in the event that there are rumors of an outbreak or whatever it is in a school. And that is the point that maybe this morning we would have to push across forcefully, that there will be rumors of outbreaks and all that since school have reopened. And that would trigger a lot of reactions from parents and maybe the management of the schools. What we would want to push is that parents should not be eager to quickly rush to schools to move their kids or take their kids to their various houses because there is a rumor of an outbreak in a school. I think that is something that we will have to deal with as the weeks come by.
If you look at the observations that have been made critically by way of the management of the cases, it also means that there's some level of confidence as far as the international community is, even though there's some level of skepticism locally. But it still means that the management has been done in such a way that we should have confidence in the return of the students to school, of being kept well and safely, right?
Yes, yes. But one thing that we have to also note and we have to also say is that at this stage, the responsibility shifts from the ministry and Ghana Education Service to the managers of the schools. And that is a point that we have to say. If they are not able to instill the protocols, if the managers of the schools, I mean the headmasters, the assistant headmasters, and then the teachers, the house masters, if they are not able to enforce the protocols, they are not able to check that the students are washing their hands, there is a lot of social distancing going on in the classrooms and in the dormitories and in the dining halls, I don't think that we can push that blame on the Ghana Education Service or the Ministry of Education. So this is a point that the management skills of the various headmasters have to come to play. And we hope that they would stand up to the challenge and ensure that students adhere to all the relevant protocols, that they will be masked all over on campus, that they would not be in any form of social gathering like meeting together to sing and jam and all those things. These are things that the managers of the school should take charge of and make sure they are held, they are done to its fullest. So the responsibilities keep shifting, whereas the ministry and the Ghana Education Service, we should continue to provide these things for the schools as and when they get spots or the managers need something, as they communicate to them, they promptly have to respond to them in terms of whatever they need. The managers of the schools should also, as a matter of policy, take it upon themselves to ensure the complete adherence of the protocols. And in any case where we have a break of the protocols in any of the schools, I think that they should be held responsible.
Well, we've been joined by the president of the National Association of Graduate Teachers, Angel Kabonu. Mr. Kabonu, thank you for joining us. Mr. Kabonu? Well, looks like we're having some difficulties. Please unmute your sound. Can you unmute your sound? Ultimately, Mr. Kabuna, I know you can hear me.
Okay.
Oh, great, great. Now, I would want to read something for you. This one is from the World Economic Forum site. And it says that the public health officials in the U.S. warned about the dangers of to children if schools are reopened because of related issues about weather, cold, and then concerns about the state of the health of children before they come to school. You, as the teachers, apart from jaw-jawing or having these discussions for a buying with the Ministry of Education, did you take consideration of other medical advice before agreeing to go back to the classroom?
Well, Roland, what the medical persons gave us was a blanket no, indicating to us that the numbers were growing and the...
No, this is bad. We have to take that question.
The fact that we had been able to ask students to go to school. So that was what we communicated to government at that time. That, look, the medical people are telling us that the dynamics have not changed and they are still having problems in identifying the nature and behavior of this disease. Our numbers seems to be going up. So you recall that our first statement that came indicated that the grounds were not fertile for students to return to school. What informed that was our contact with some medical persons and the advice they gave us.
So you still went ahead despite medical advice on your side?
Well, you saw the intrigues that that our statement got, and the response they got. People sat on radio insulting us. There was one chief executive of one popular radio station chiding teachers here and there. You recall Professor Stephen Adair even saying that 50% of our salaries should be paid and so on and so forth. So the government had its way anyway, because the government indicated that, yes, all that they wanted is our input so that when they so decide to reopen the schools, then they will.
Please reiterate that point again. The feed has been bad over the last few minutes. So,
yeah, well, I'm saying that the
bad feed.
It was clear that the schools open, so we had to make suggestions as to areas that we can help to solve the problem.
Right. There's an incredible aspect of this that is important, of people aggregating or congregating together, and it's about the distance. What's the distance? Let me read this by you. In Switzerland, and this one I'm taking from the Wall Street Journal, in Switzerland, children at Geneva's Le Tour school had to adapt to new rituals. Classrooms were half full to reduce crowding, and desks spaced 2 meters into brackets 6.5 feet. We all know what 6.5 feet is. What's your distancing spaces in your classrooms, Mr. Angel Kabunu?
Yeah, well, the directive that has been given by the ministry is that a class size should be reduced to 25. So when you reduce class size to 25, it depends on the size of the class in the first place. As to whether that class size will culminate into 5 feet or 4 feet is a different matter. The classes that averagely were around 50 to 60, directives have been given that those classes should reduce to 25. Now, the issue is that the sizes of classrooms in Ghana are not the same. So when you reduce class size in, let's say, Achimota School, the distance is going to be different from the class size from Presbyterian Boys Secondary School Presec. So that will not mean that we have a standard meter space that should be adhered to, but the class sizes have been reduced to 25. That is the decision Ghana is taking.
Mr. Anti, what do you make of all this? You know, getting a buy-in from organizing institutions is important, but stakeholders and their interests and how they envisage, based on professional advice, a decision needs to be taken. It's also critical, is that not it?
Yes, and that is one of the things we've been pushing for, that in this sector, you have a lot of stakeholders. If you would want to say, ideally, your stakeholders are everybody, includes everybody in the country, because all of us have either one relative or the other, being a teacher or a student or an education worker. So you cannot take some of these decisions without involving the relevant stakeholders. I think that the teacher unions took this decision based on good faith, and I hope that they will not be disappointed by the relevant authorities with the good faith they have shown, because as he rightly said, at the beginning, there were a lot of reluctance from their side. Some of us came and were suggesting that if the ministry is asking for input, you go with the input, and then when any other thing comes out after that, then we can all come and then deal with it. Then fortunately, they did that. They have gone with their input. There were arguments here, there were disagreements here, that they had to make some concessions, especially with the testing of all students and education, the teachers. They agree that the testing will not take place. So those are things that they have helped with the whole process. So I think the consultation has been good, let me say good, up to this stage, and going forward is going to be critical, because we are aware that a team was sent around to the various schools to check one or two things, and information were sent back to the relevant authorities. The kind of communication that will go on from this time around is very important. And you look at the guidelines that have been prepared by the Ghana Education Service. Some of these communications should go directly through their channels of communication rather than come to the media. What we would want to believe is that the relevant authorities are going to respond immediately they receive complaints and challenges that are coming from these managers of the schools. And it will not be like they have to, the teachers or the schools that are making such complaints would have to wait and call on the relevant authorities for a considerable number of times before they respond. If that happens, then they are breaking their own channel of communication, and that will mean that the school authorities would have to speak to the media, and that is one of the challenges that we have had over the years. So whilst they are insisting that the school authorities and the teachers should not engage the media, it's something that personally and our institute we agree to, so that we deal with the issue of rumors. The relevant authorities should also be very quick in responding to challenges that will come up. For example, the classroom size that you are talking about, it is true, some of the classrooms are very big. So you are talking of 25 students, you'll be able to do your 25, and then you have spaces for the students. Some of the classrooms are not that big, so if you're talking of 25 students, you still have some closeness among the students. If these challenges are communicated, the relevant authorities should be able to come in as early as possible to address what should be done. Or when you do the 25 and your classrooms are not going to be enough, especially when you are bringing in the second year gold student. If you do the 25 and your classrooms are not going to be enough, you should be able to quickly communicate and they communicate it to the relevant authorities, I mean the Ghana Education Service, the District Education Office, or the Regional Education Office, or headquarters, they should be able to, as early as possible, address that particular challenge so that the headmasters and the teachers in the school would be rest assured that anytime these challenges come up, their issues will be addressed. I think that will be the bone of contention as we go ahead. How quickly the ministry and the Ghana Education Service will respond to challenges as they come up during this period.
I see. Very interesting. So let me pose this question then after this refrain to Mr. Angel Kabonu. And I'm reading this from the Mental Health Organization UK, its own website. And they have a dedicated site for coronavirus and the return of children to school after lockdown and restriction periods. And so I'll just read. The Royal College of Pediatrics and Child Health, they have put together what they call a guidance support for children and young people living with a range of conditions. And they have itemized that post-lockdown restrictions, they have identified that children or young people would have gone through a number of experiences. One, domestic violence, abuse or neglect, family conflict, financial concerns, either because parents have lost their jobs or their guardians have lost their jobs, worry about relatives who are key workers and continuing to work, carrying responsibilities for family members. They may have been hungry and lack nutrition. They may have been insecure in having good housing, etc., or living conditions. And as a result of that, they do some level of counseling. You, Mr. Angel Kabonu, what counseling have you gone through? What counseling have you given the children, their parents, before you tell them to make entry back into the classroom?
Well, let me state clearly that we are not professional health workers. So we will not be able to give that specific counseling that pertain to the health of the student with regards to COVID-19. By our training as professional teachers, we can give general counseling as to how you relate yourself to developing situations, how you psych yourself to get yourself into the frame of mind to study. It is going to be difficult because we are not in normal times. And the fact of the matter is that the students who are in school as I speak are in a state of apprehension. Likewise, their teachers. We are all trying to protect ourselves as much as possible. For example, yesterday, NAGRAT issued a statement to teachers not to receive or exchange books or exercise books with students. What that means is that even receiving exercise books and marking in itself is going to be a problem, because we all know that the virus rests on surfaces of materials, and exchange of exercise books between teachers and students will be one means by which this disease can be communicated. So it's going to be a very difficult interaction. I doubt the perfection of the outcome, because that is not the type of environment conducive for teaching. So this is where we are. And again, there is a directive that parents will not visit their children in school for the 6 weeks for the 8 weeks that they will be in school. Again, a parent being at home, not knowing the status of the child, again, creates a state of anxiety. So it is not a very welcome environment for teaching to take place, because there should be a standard environment where teaching and learning takes place. It is not the best at all, to be very candid with you.
Well, it's why I have to invite into the discussion the professionals. Since all of you, both you and Peter, you're deciding to recuse yourself from having the responsibility of counseling, let me go to a lead psychiatrist, Dr. Ruth Owusu-Entry, and speak to her on the related conversation about how we need to psych out the students, whether we've done that. Do we have you, Dr. Ruth Owusu-Entry? Not yet. But Peter, if you do analysis of what has happened in some of the best jurisdictions. I'm not saying that we should be a first world country or a developed country, because we're not. At the end of the day, we need to meet each other halfway. Do you think we've done that before, saying that the children should go back to the classroom, 3rd years, and then 2nd year gold track students?
Yeah, so if you look at the countries that some of them try to reopen schools and others have actually reopened schools and the students are on campus. Some of them tried to reopen. I said that because they tried and then they had to shut down because there was a spike in the outbreak of the disease. So they would have to shut down. If you look at those countries, they all had their various protocols. The UNESCO released two different, in May, they released two different protocol research works that all speak to how schools should be organized in the event that schools are reopened. I think the ministry took a lot of contributions from all of us, various stakeholders, and they have put them together to form a document that is supposed to inform them on how the various school reopening process would be. So yes, I think that there have been meetings here and there, and the associations, the relevant stakeholders, there have been points at this stage now for the reopening to go on. What I cannot say is the way forward as we have started the implementation of the protocols. And that has been one of the things that we've been talking about, that the real test will come when the students get to campus and they start the interaction. And my boss, Angel, is trying to tell you some of the challenges that they are likely to face in terms of marking and then going around to inspect students' work and all those things. I think these are challenges that will be on the ground, and that will bring out the innovativeness and ingenuity in the managers of the schools. So when I'm talking and I talk about we should be shifting responsibilities a little bit as we keep going, that is one of the issues I mean. So if you are going to teach students and when you give them assignments, you cannot mark because it is a possible way of transmitting or you getting infected. What can we do as a school in our own small corner? What can we do in order that we can still get a little assessment from the students and know that they are coping with whatever we are teaching? So these are things that the various headmasters and then assistant headmasters in charge of academics would have to think through and come out so that they will be able to safeguard not only the teachers, but also the students on campus.
Mm. In relation to what Mr. Peter Anti just said, what will you be doing, you and your membership?
Well, the first thing we will do is that we will stay alive. We will do everything. We will do everything possible to stay alive, but at the same time, take advantage of the opportunities that is available to impact some knowledge to the students. But let us get something clear here. These students had already finished their syllabus, and they were just about to write their WASE exams when the schools were closed down. So it is not as if we were so much behind time, because exams were just, in fact, practicals even had started in some practical subjects, so it is not too bad a situation where as if we were so behind time and the students are not prepared. So this period will just be some period of polishing up. It will not be the traditional teaching, so the interaction will be more, or will minimize more than it used to be. So we'll try and do that, keep our distance, advise students to keep their distance within themselves, and we make the best out of the issue as much as possible. But the primary thing we all have to do is to stay alive.
Mm. And ultimately, while staying alive, it doesn't mean you're neglecting, right?
No. You will not. You will be in the school. You will teach the students. It is not the way you and I we were all in school. We know how teachers and students interact. There are some students of special needs that we even have to isolate and give them a little bit more tuition. All those things cannot be done. Generally, we will impart knowledge and then we see how it goes.
There's a concern. For example, I have a friend who works in one of the hotels where they kept some of the quarantine people, and he raised a concern that even the medical people who were supposed to come and have an interaction with them were shying away. Okay, because they've had concerns that some of their friends have passed on, etc. So there is that level of anxiety even within the professional groupings. We could have that uncertainty in that teacher to student contact, right?
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. And even when we leave the schools and get back home, let me tell you the situation, my situation. When I get home, I'm asked to remove my shoes, wash my hands to my shoulder level, wash my face before I enter my own room, because that is the protocol in my house. And now that schools are open, I'm sure they're going to create some side bathhouse for me outside to wash down before I enter the building. So it's an indication that, look, your schools are opened, teachers are coming from all over the place, students are coming from all over the place, you are a possible contact to the house, and so on and so forth. Again, now that it has been announced that some dormitories should be put aside as isolation centers, it means that when one contracted the disease, gets infected by the disease in the school, then the schools are also going to be isolation centers. So we have not succeeded in fighting the stigma thing in the country. And I hope and pray, and I pray very earnestly, that we don't have a situation where one school will announce that student A, B, or C has the disease, because I can assure you it will cause some pandemonium in the school. I know students, I've been with students all my life, and I know the reaction to these things, how it goes.
Right. Peter Auntie, I have my good friend who just sent me, Mr. Ampuma, and he says that the teachers have to wash their hands regularly, so the excuse of marking students' papers is no more an excuse. They can use gloves, etc. You've been provided with gloves, right?
Am I to answer?
Yes, you are the one going to do the teaching.
Well, I don't think gloves are part of the issue, but the gentleman who talked about the fact that you use gloves, does the person know what a virus is? Because when something is on the surface and you even use gloves, does that mean that there cannot be anything that gets into your nostrils or your mouth or your eyes or something like that? I think people should do some little bit of research here.
Peter, well, your organization definitely would have done some work, perhaps looking at maybe how prepared the schools, etc. We have gone through a number of the schools the whole of Monday. We'll continue to do that on Tuesday as well. How well, generally, have you concluded that the schools are ready, psychologically, administratively, and then physically by way of the structures, etc.?
Yeah, before I answer that, let me add my voice to the comment from the guy who said that they can use gloves and wash their hands and other things. I think that our teachers are very professional and they know how to handle the students at this time. So we should not dictate to them how best they should go about the teaching and learning process. They know how to do it and get the results that they need, because at the end of the day, if the students don't do well, they would be held responsible. So I don't think that any teacher will say that I'm not going to do what I'm supposed to do in order so that I don't get the disease. At the same time, the kids would not be given the needed tuition that they need. So we should not try to dictate to the teachers how they go about the teaching and learning process. I think that is one thing that we should desist from, because they are professionals, they know how to go about that. Yes, we have done some few, we don't have that kind of strength and coverage like you people you do So we've done some few checks in the Ashanti region and in Accra and then in the central region. And it seems that the schools were prepared, at least to some extent, let's say more than half, 50%, to receive the students with the education and then the kind of equipment that they needed, which were sent in on time. So in terms of that, administratively, the schools were prepared. Yesterday, we picked notice from the Western region that seems to suggest that some students who reported late in the evening were stuck somewhere, but I think it was quickly resolved, and then the schools were reopened for them to enter. So that is on the administrative side. For psychology side, I cannot say much about it, because even those of us who are not even teaching and we just have our family members going back to school, we're still contemplating on the possibilities of the person contracting the virus and the implications of that on the child, on the school, and then on even we, the family members. So I think as a country, we have not been able to deal with that particular variable very well in terms of psyching the general populace about the implications of contracting the virus and the issue of stigmatization that my senior brother talked about, in terms of in case that a student is seen to have contracted a disease, the stigmatization that will come with it. As a country, we've not been able to handle that aspect very well. And that is why even the more that we talk about adhering to the protocols, the more that people are resisting. You don't see people with the nose mask when they are in the public places. You don't see people doing social distances and all those things. So I think that is a nationwide problem that we would have to address. And the education that is supposed to be done by the Ministry of Health, the Ministry of Information, the NCCE, and all those people, they should intensify it, because it seems that we are not sure of what we are really dealing with. So in terms of psychology, it would be difficult for me to say that we've done a lot of work there. But for the preparation, since the students and the teachers are ready to kickstart the academic period that they lost and then lead to the writing of the exams, I think that it's quite in line.
Well, we have the head of psychology, and with the Confanotis Teaching Hospital, Dr. Ruth Owusu-Antwi joining us, because she briefly, for the next 2, 3, 5 minutes, will answer some of the questions that we need to. And thank you for joining us, Dr. Ruth Owusu-Antwi. Unmute your sound, Dr. Ruth Owusu-Antwi. You have?
Yeah. Great. Thank you, Roland, and good morning to you and your listeners.
Yeah, great. I know, right? Sometimes we tend to forget that Zoom always says we should unmute. But look, I was just reading something from the Mental Health Organization's website of the UK, the Royal College. You know how they seem to have everything apportioned quite well. And then look at the psychology of students and parents and even the teachers in the return to school post-lockdown restrictions. Ideally, what should we be doing for the teachers on one side, the parents on the other side, and even the general observers?
So I've been a bit concerned, because I realized that the government did very well, provided PPEs to the various schools, cautioned them about stepping up the preventive measures and all that. But it seems that everyone forgot about emotional PPEs, which is very essential in the whole of this pandemic. Students are going back to school. What kind of emotional PPEs have been dispatched to them? Both their teachers, their parents, and the students themselves. And I think that we have woefully done inadequately in that sense. People are anxious, parents are anxious, the students themselves are anxious. Teachers may be uncomfortable as well, and may be entertaining their own anxieties, even though they may put up a brave face. And so I thought that there will be measures in place to educate these students, educate their teachers, tell them how to handle the anxieties that may come with students coming back to school and all that. Tell them that when students are anxious, where do they go to? Who do they see? Is there a counselor on site? Is there a mental health aspect on site? I didn't seem to see that aspect being visibly affected into students going back to school in all of this.
And I was reading this from the Mental Health Organization website. They have mentally healthy schools websites to help children in transition. We don't have that in Ghana. Now, when you also move up, they equally have what they call, and this one has been put together rightly by the Royal College of Psychiatrists and Physicians, your people, the Royal College of Pediatrics and Child Health. They have a guidance on supporting children and young people living with a range of health conditions. We don't have that in Ghana, do we? How are these important ultimately in helping young people do the transition to the next step within such a difficult phase?
Very, very crucial. And I think that our colleagues elsewhere have set a very good example that we should follow, albeit late. It's better late than never. And so we should be able to put up this link quickly. When COVID came into the country, there were hotlines for people to call whenever they were having symptoms and all that. We should do likewise for students, parents of students, teachers, even in this time that they are going back to school. There should be hotlines for them to call. There should be centers or offices designated for just students who may be, or parents of students, or even teachers who may be experiencing anxiety one way or the other. Don't let us forget that our mental health directly impacts on our physical health. You cannot put in all the physical PPEs and expect that students will learn peacefully and pass their exams well. No, if you leave out their mental health. In fact, if the mind is not at peace, how are they able to sit down? How should they sit down, concentrate, revise, and follow through revisions that teachers may be taking them through? And so we should quickly put in such measures. It seems that our leaders forget about mental health all the time. But WHO says that there is no health without mental health. And so this is the time to rise up to the challenge. It may have come in late, but it is better late than never. Those measures should quickly be put in place so that our students can hopefully and totally be transitioned into this period of going back to school and being totally successful in their exams.
Well, we're opening the phone lines, and the phone lines will be on the screens for you. So for the next 5 minutes, we're interacting. If you know you have a ward who is in second cycle school, senior high school as we call it, or is actually in school, is in the gold track second year, please let's hear from you. 0302211691. 0302211692. Let us hear from you. Be on your screens. So, Mr. Angel Kabonu, if, let's say, hypothetically, in a particular school, a teacher or a pupil is noted. You know how we do rumors. Please unmute before you answer. Test positive. What will you do as teachers in that school?
Well, the reason why I'm laughing is because we all know the nature of our secondary schools and how everybody reacts to situations. Let there be a small who in the school that a girl is pregnant, and you know how the students react, you know. So it will be the same thing. I can assure you that there'll be students' reaction. The students will even attempt to start doing contact tracing by identifying who the student spoke to, who the student related with, and so on and so forth. The teachers themselves, I can assure you, will be a little bit confused because these are new situations that we've not handled before. I think the best thing to do is quickly to call the health professionals into the school, for the health professionals to handle the situation professionally. And what Madam was talking about, the psychological preparedness of people to handle a relatively new situation is absolutely very important, because there are times that you think that you are adequately prepared and ready to handle a situation until the situation confronts you and you realize how confused and unprepared you are. Again, we are all getting back to the school hoping that nothing will happen, but that is not the situation, because we are in a human institution. Children are coming from all places. Teachers are coming from all places in this country. And if something like this happens, I think the first thing that I'll advise any school to do is to quickly, immediately call health professionals to come in. Even somebody who is well trained in handling the psychology of students, that number of students at the time, the words, the choice of words to use, the mannerisms and approach to use to calm people down. If you don't get it right, I can assure you, you'll be sending the wrong signals, and then you'll be creating more problems.
Let me go onto the phone lines, because my next question is to Dr. Owusu-Antwi, but Robert is calling from Kaneshi. Robert, how are you? Do you have a child in school, or you just want to contribute to the discussion? Robert? We have Robert?
There.
Robert?
Yeah, hello.
Yeah. Please contribute for me.
Yeah, I have a niece at SHS now who has gone to school now. I want to say that teachers have to be more vigilant, because these are children. Sometimes they will not, unconsciously, they will touch each other, unconsciously they can hug each other. Because if you look at what happened on Saturday, elderly people, MPP primaries, elderly people, when results was announced, look at the way people were hugging each other. They forgot about the protocols. So I want to say that teachers should be vigilant on the children. The headmaster should be vigilant on them, so that they will not, as children as they are, if elderly people will forget, then what about their children? So I just want to say that all our teachers, we are encouraging them. This is a hard time, but they should be conscious of everything that they do. That's what I want to say. Thank you very much.
Matthias from Trefopraso. Matthias.
Hello, Roland.
Yeah, Matthias. We locally say Matthias. Matthias.
Yes.
This is the bropholize mention. So, Matthias. Matthias, what do you have to say to the conversation?
Yeah, I have a daughter who is part of the SHS2 Gold. And when the students in the classroom or they are before their teachers, they will comport themselves very well. But in their various dormitories, who is monitoring them? They may be exchanging items. They may be exchanging certain things that might be the cause of spreading the disease. So I'm even scared. I'm scared. My daughter is gone now, but I'm just thinking, what will be the
your daughter is gone to school?
Yes, she's gone.
Yeah. So it means psychologically you're also in an indecisive state.
Yes, I don't know what is happening to my daughter.
Dr. Ruth, before I go to Musa Ovwa, Dr. Ruth Owusu-Antwi, you see, we have a typical case of a parent, Matthias, who is also in a very indifferent state, very indecisive state, psychologically unbalanced. A typical case of parent, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and this is normal. This is to be anticipated. Unfortunately, this is not a time to call a PTA and put all the parents of these students together, but it would have been a very good time to connect to these parents via Zoom, like we are doing now, and then give them some form of preparedness before their wards come to school. Don't let us forget that children and young people look up to adults, especially to let them know whether they are safe or not. The fact that their parents are visibly worried will directly impact on the psychological state of the wards as well. If, however, their parents are confident, they see elderly people or older people confident that they would be safe in school, then it directly also impacts on their own level of confidence. So some measure that could have been put in place was to have put all parents together via Zoom, go through some form of psychological support by mental health aspect. And then that way, before their wards even leave home for school, they would reassure them that you'll be okay. And then in addition to that, when the kids have gotten back to school, these young people have gotten back to school, then another dose of psychosocial support will be given to them. But all of these have not been done. And I'm saying that it is not late. The mental health fraternity is ready to support. Psychiatric Association of Ghana is ready to support. The Mental Health Authority is on standby, ready to support. We need to be involved in all of this. We need to be invited and our expertise to be brought on board to support. And I encourage that patient, parent who just spoke, to calm down. Sometimes it's just difficult to calm down on your own. If it becomes challenging, you can get psychosocial support from any hospital close by who may have a mental health expert at post. But make sure you are eating well, make sure you are sleeping well, and make sure that you are distracting yourself with useful and meaningful activities so that your mind is not concentrated on your worries about your kids. And if it becomes out of measure, or it becomes unbearable for you, then this is the time to actually walk into any health facility and speak to a mental health expert.
Yeah, I think that myself and Enje Kabono will tell you that not all the parents who are having their children in second cycle or senior secondary schools can access Zoom. But let me ask Musa, who is calling from Wa. Musa, have you accessed Zoom before? Musa?
Yes, sir.
You're calling from Wa.
Very well.
Have you accessed Zoom before? Zoom?
No, please.
Do you know what is Zoom?
Yes, yes.
But you haven't accessed it before. Do you have a child in second cycle school?
Yeah, I'm actually a facilitator at the second cycle.
You're a facilitator?
Very well.
Okay. And you haven't used Zoom before. So how do you, in these difficult times, interact with parents of the children?
Yeah, it's actually a difficult situation, sir. What is happening is that I was listening to the program, and when it comes to giving exercises, especially assessing students, I heard the president, Laga, say that when it comes to marking exercises, it will be difficult, and somebody tried to aid with ideas. For me, I think that, of course, teachers have been teaching. We have experienced teachers in the system. That one should be left to teachers to handle, because lives are at risk here. For instance, when you are collecting students' exercise books to mark, it is not one person you are going to mark the exercise book. You are going to pile them. So if there is a problem, of course, it is expected that the virus can be found on the surface of the exercise book. When you are put together and you mark, now what happens is that you have to send this exercise book to the student, and you cannot send them separately. So the implication is that if a student is infected, you are likely, as a result of assessing the student, by marking the exercise book, you are likely to spread the virus among the students. So for me, I think that the people trying to assist teachers on the ground as how to assess students should be left to teachers.
Yeah.
Yes. And then again, just like other experts are contributing, in fact, especially many teachers and even students are not actually very comfortable.
Well, we have Musa Fomwa. The sound was difficult. But, Mr. Kabonu, how do we spread calm, not fear? How do we do that? You know that hashtag that was going at the beginning? It's all lost into oblivion. We've all forgotten about it. Now we are fearful than anything. But how do we resolve this?
Well, it's the fear did not come down because of the rising numbers in infected persons. When I saw my very good friend Gary Al Smith's picture at the Legon Center, I say, hey, enjoy from Mimba, you know, that sort of thing. We do not know today. Just I'm hearing that we have crossed 14,000 and we are nearing 15,000. So, in as much as we want to calm down the fear, the numbers keep rising, and the places that we begin to see people get infected also keep rising, and then we get scared. But all that it is, one thing that we can assure ourselves that the total number of people who are recovering are also going higher and higher. And I hope and pray, the medical people have not maybe seen it, but maybe some of us may be blessed with certain blood type, blood group genes that even when we get infected, it does not have anything to do with us. Those of us who really struggled in life to succeed, we the non-dadabas, I know you understand that. We who are not dadabas, I don't think Corona is going to affect us. And we hope and pray so. So we can encourage ourselves with some of these things and know very well that a majority of us are going to survive this situation. Therefore, based on that, we can calm down the fears.
Calm down the fears. Okay, you're ready to face this hurdle. And we thank you. NAGRAT President Angel Kabonu.
Yeah, but Roland.
Oh, I've ended the discussion. Roland. Yes, sir.
Peter, find time and pass by the office for some discussion.
All right.
What a way to connect. Zoom and join news. We're doing great work. Well, good connection there. But Peter Auntie, a last word. Just 30 seconds, and I'm timing it because my director says I should go off. 30 seconds. Okay,
so I would still appeal to the headmasters and then the teachers in the various schools to continue to use the various channels of communication in the event that there is an outbreak or a student picks the disease, so that we will not entertain rumors on our campuses and invite the health professionals to come and handle the issue. I have to say that definitely somebody might contract it. The way we handle it is the key to the continued stay of students on campus, leading to them writing their exams.
Peter, you're like a pastor who knows that sin is inevitable. Anyway, Peter Auntie, I wish you the best for the morning. And also, NAGRAT President, I wish you can leave the meeting now, but you will be remaining. Dr. Ruth, your last word. What should be the frame of mind, the mind's frame of all the key stakeholders? We're talking the guardians and the parents on one side, the teachers in the middle, even the administrators in the schools, and the pupils themselves. So we have 4.
Yeah, so I would say that if you fail to prepare, then you prepare to fail. So let us put in psychological and emotional PPEs for our students, our teachers, our parents, the administrative staff of these students. And I would say on this channel that the Mental Health Authority, the Psychiatric Association of Ghana are very happy and ready to partner all these bodies to make sure that this 3 months or so that the students are back in school there are no eventualities. And even if there are eventualities, they are handled to the best of our capabilities. And so we will be happy to connect with all these bodies to give them all the support that they need.
Well, as the head of psychiatry, the Confidential Teaching Hospital, smooth talker, calms the storm like Moses. Thank you very much, Dr. Ruth Owusu-Entry, for your contribution. Very professional. Another professional is the president of NAGRA, professionally trained teacher, doing great work, serving as president of the National Association of Graduate Teachers. And Peter Pate Anti is executive director of the think tank Institute for Education Studies. IFES is the name. All of you, thank you for contributing.